Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now with this review that will finally be all named characters that have been covered. I've no idea why I've kept this character for last. I've maybe been putting this one off due to how poor they are. It is of course Ronan the Accuser. Now in the video we'll start off with a general overview that includes his tags and also how you unlock them. We'll then have a look at his stats. Next up it's the abilities. We then have the synergies, and then finally we see where he places in the tier list. So we'll start off here with the general overview. At the moment then with Ronan, the only way to actually unlock him is via premium orbs, that is just random, or via raid orbs. Now do not spend your raid currency on Ronan at all, unless maybe you've unlocked all the other characters to 7-star and your currency's stacking up or hitting a cap. Even if there is a cap, I'm not sure if there actually is, but basically don't use your raid orbs on leveling them up at all. Now if we look at his tags, it's Villain, Cosmic, Mystic, Controller and Kree. So Cosmic and Mystic would be useful for those campaigns if he was a good hero. Sadly he's not. Then you've got the Kree tag, and they have tried to put some synergies in there but it just doesn't work right and it needs a lot more work. Now with that covered, what we'll do next is have a look at his stats. We start off here then looking at his offensive stats. Now his damage is up at B, so that's really not too bad. However, his speed is way down at F, and I think it almost matches Hulk. It's somewhere in the region of 70 or 71 speed that he actually has. Now when we look at the speed stat on a character such as Hulk, who's a protector, the fact he's slow means his taunt is up longer, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. With a character like Ronan that is there to put out some damage and offer crowd control, having low speed is a massive negative that's really near enough kills Ronan, this one stat alone, just the fact he's so slow. Now next up we have his focus. That is really good, that's really high, it's way up at A, so that means when it comes to applying his ability block he'll have a much higher chance of applying that there, but really everything comes down to this speed rate and it does absolutely kill him as a character. Now next up we'll have a look at his defensive stats. When we look at his defensive stats, he actually does not too bad here. He's got a pretty high health pool, that's up at B, and he has moderate armour, that's at C, and his resistance is way up at A, so it is really hard to apply debuffs to him, so it can be difficult to stun or slow him any further. Also from a defensive perspective, in his kit he has cleanse, heal and additional resistance that he can apply to himself, so defensive stats wise he actually does pretty good here. Now next up we'll have a look at his abilities. For the abilities here we have 4 in total to look at. It's the basic, special, ultimate and also the passive. Now for the active abilities we'll show them at level 7 and for the passives we'll show them at level 5. This information was available in game for quite a few months and it is also available via msf.gg. Now the first ability we look at is the passive. This is called Accuser. So with this you gain 15% resistance and you apply 10% resistance to Kree allies. This is up there with one of the worst passives in the game because Ronan doesn't really need the additional 15% resistance, and also there's so few named allies that you would pair him up with that the additional resistance they would gain just isn't worthwhile. So purely for the fact that you may run him as one of your lower end blitz teams and if his score is higher you get more points, I would take this one up to level 2, but I wouldn't take it any higher than that. For his basic we have a skill called Hammer Smash. Now maxed out with this one you attack the primary target for 180% damage, so it's really not the highest multiplier, and you clear one positive effect. So if you're going up against a tank that just has a taunt on it you have the chance of removing it. Now I will mention that when it comes to Ronan you want to pair him up with Kree allies due to the synergies, but one thing you need to watch out for, if you go Korath and use his special to apply taunt to a glass cannon character so that you can then focus them down, if you follow that up by attacking with the basic on Ronan, there's a chance you could clear this taunt. It's really crazy that the synergies are set up this way, but this is the way they are at the moment. Now if you were to level this up, take it up to level 6 because that means you get the 100% chance to clear one positive effect. For the special, we have an ability here that I suppose could be useful in some circumstances, but not many. This is called Judgment. It's 4 turns to charge and comes fully charged. Now the useful part of this is that when it's maxed out, you clear all negative effects from self and all allies. So that could be really nice if you did have a ton of debuffs on yourself, and the fact he's slow, that means that our team is given the opportunity to apply the debuffs, and then he can use this to remove them all. So that could be nice, that ability. The next part of it, which isn't really great, is that you heal self and all Kree allies, that's just Kree allies, for 4000 health, which is a drop in the ocean, and only 5% of this max character's health. And his health pool, although it does set up at quite high when we look at the actual stat rating for it, 5% of the max health pool, which is round about 66,000, would just be over 3,000, so that's really not a lot that he's healing other characters for. When you think at end game, a lot of characters have between about 40 and 70,000 health there. Now, in regards to how high you want to take it, you would take this up to level 6, because that gives you the ability to clear all negative effects from self and all allies as well. So again, that could be useful, but it is exceptionally situational. For the ultimate, we do have a pretty nice skill here, but the actual damage multiplier on it, similar to his basic, is really far too low. So this is called Universal Weapon. It's 5 turns to charge. It does come fully charged, meaning you can use it at the start of a fight, and you will want to do this. So with this, you attack all enemies for 180% damage and apply ability block to 1 to 2 enemies for 1 turn, and due to his high focus, there's a very high chance that you will actually apply that. In regards to how high you want to take this, I would actually just leave it down at level 4, because at level 4 you unlock the ability to block 1 to 2 enemies for the 1 turn, and all you're really losing is a little bit of damage, so save on to your materials there. Now, next up, with the abilities covered, what we'll do is we'll have a look at the synergies. When we look at characters that you can work well with, he's really all about running a full minion team, and this is the same issue that Scientist Supreme has, is that she's geared towards running a team with a specific tag. At the moment, the only other characters with that tag are minions, and by and large, minions are a lot weaker than named heroes. This is a big problem with Ronan now. Particular Kree minions that can work pretty nice and have quite strong synergies would include Kree Noble and also Kree Royal Guard. Next up, we have Vision. He can work well with him, and this is my alliance mate Rain that made me aware of this. What happens is you start a match with Vision, you apply ability block. Because Ronan is so slow, the chances are the enemy will have their turn, ability block will wear off, and then Ronan actually has a chance to apply the ability block as well, so that could be nice. Next up, you've got characters that would speed him up, because he very much needs this. That includes Black Widow and also Merc Lieutenant. Finally, one thing I will mention, I know we're talking about characters you want to run him with, but you want to avoid running him with Korath and Ultimus, who are Kree allies, because as mentioned earlier on in the video, Ronan will have a chance to remove the taunt that Korath puts up on his special, and also when it comes to Ultimus, on his ultimate skill, he can gain offense up if the ally has taunt, and again, Ronan has a chance to actually remove that taunt there. Now, next up, we'll have a look at the characters you want to avoid. When it comes to characters you want to avoid, then Ronan really is a bit of an odd one, in that, as we know from this video and everything I've discussed so far, he is a really weak character. Now, despite that, he doesn't have any obvious inherent weaknesses. Like, let's just say, for example, you've got the likes of Hulk, who has slow speed and also he has low resistance, which means he can be slowed even further. So Ronan doesn't really have anything like that, but that's purely down to the fact that his kit is so basic that he doesn't have any kind of weaknesses in that regard, and just overall he is weak to just about any character due to how low a tier he is now. So for that reason, you can see that I've classed enemies as everyone there. Now, if you've got any ideas in particular of any enemies you think really could give him trouble, then do let me know in the comments below. But basically, due to the fact that everyone can give him trouble, I think this gives away where he's going to be sitting on the tier list. Now, just before we do actually place Ronan here, I'll mention something that is relevant to this tier list. You've of course got your 5 different ratings, but personally when I do place characters, I feel that each of the different ratings has a low, mid and high version. That way a character may be high alpha, and if they had a slight tweak, then that way they would move into a mega, or if a character was low alpha and they were nerfed to a little bit, then they would drop into level 3. Now the reason I'm mentioning this is that I would say that Ronan is a level 1 character, but he would be a level 1 higher tier character, and that he is close to being level 2 because he's not completely useless. You've got the likes of his ultimate, which is pretty nice with the ability block, and you've got his stats that are high, but you've got everything else we have mentioned in this video that drags him down. So finally, Scientist Supreme has someone to keep her company there. Now with that, that's all the in-depth reviews completed for now. Mordo is actually shown in game, so hopefully he'll be out in the not too long future, and the aim going forward is always to unlock a character as soon as I can and then get an in-depth review out for them, but also making sure that I've had some playtime with them so I can get a feel for the actual character as well. I'm not going to just look at the abilities on msf.gg or in-game and make a decision based on that, because it's only really when you take a character into battle you can really see how they work going up against other enemies. So with the series completed, let me know in the comments below what was your favourite one. I know in my mind what was the favourite one to do, but I'm not going to say it and spoil it. I'll see if other people did enjoy that particular one as well. So as always, thanks for tuning in. This was a fun series to do, and it will still keep going on, and yeah, I'll see you all again soon.